everyone, and I believe I started on time tonight. I do not believe that. So, I mean, this is a rare thing. I have been really sick for the past week with a lung infection, so forgive me if I make a couple of mistakes or I'm not really as energetic as I normally come across. But tonight I've got with me Kate Daniel, and Kate has a story, and I just hope there's not too many women out there that have gone through the same thing that Kate's gone through. I mean, I know there are, but you know, it's such a sad thing. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to lose a baby. So, Kate, let's just talk about, and you know, you're just in so much control and you're just wonderful how you deal with it. It was 6 years ago?
Yeah, he would have been 6 on the 1st of February that's just gone. So he would have been at school and yeah.
And you've got 2 children. You've got a daughter who's now...
I've got a 12-year-old daughter and I have an almost 5-year-old son.
Okay, so JJ was in the middle?
Yes.
So after he passed, you had a little boy?
Yes, I have another little boy.
Oh, that would have been so beautiful.
Yes.
So let's just explain to us, you can tell us the name of the condition, but it's where they're born with an extra chromosome in a cell, isn't it?
So he was born with trisomy 13, which means that he had an extra chromosome 13 attached to each cell in his body.
And what does that actually mean? Like, give us a little bit of an info on it. Like, is it a developmental thing, or are they born with different...
So there's a huge range of severities, I guess you would say. Often they don't make it through pregnancy. If they do make it through pregnancy, some are stillborn. And if they survive birth, you're basically told that it's a life-limiting illness that enjoy every day because you won't have many. But they generally don't, this is a huge generalisation, generally do not walk, talk, or interact, speak like a normal child. They wouldn't have the normal developmental stages.
And it's rare that they actually live, isn't it?
It is, I'm going to say it's rare, but I think that's to do with the medical help around it. I do know people in America with children with trisomy 13. There was one little girl who was born around the same time as JJ, and she's now 6, still living. Her family is just phenomenal. I watch her progress through Facebook, but they obviously had a very different route medically than what we did. We chose not to pursue quantity. We wanted quality time for JJ. So I think there's a huge range of factors that go into it, for sure. But they do have a lot of health issues.
So, excuse me. So are some of the babies born with like extra digits or...
Yeah, so they can have extra digits on their hands or their feet. They can have heart issues. They can have a lot of physical deformities, things not developing correctly in the womb. Usually it would be picked up. So when you have your 12-week scan when you're pregnant, that's one of the ones that they test for. They test for trisomy 13, trisomy 18 and trisomy 21, which is the Down syndrome. But most people think you're only getting tested for Down syndrome.
So your tests were okay?
My test came back just over the medium risk level. I think it's over 300 from memory, going back a while now. Over 300 is medium risk, and ours was 302 or something like that. So because of that reading, we then got sent for further testing. I actually went and got a second opinion a few days later, which said that everything was fine. So I thought that everything was fine. Went for the morphology scan I think it's at 18 weeks, where they look at things in a lot more detail, and they didn't recommend doing an amniocentesis, which would give you 100% answer. So, you know, as a pregnant mother, I went, yes, everything's good. Healthy baby, it was just a mistake. Because he didn't have any of the usual signs that they look for. So yeah, then had the pregnancy from there.
So is everything normal, like from then on?
The pregnancy was really, really tough. Really tough. One of the signs of trisomy 13, or what I've read, is preeclampsia. I kept saying, I feel like I've got preeclampsia because I could barely fit my feet into thongs for work.
Wow.
They were enormous. I still laugh about it, but it was so painful. I just had fluid everywhere, and he sat really, really low, so it was a lot of pressure from really early on. I wasn't able to wear my wedding rings from 9 weeks. That's how much fluid I had.
Wow.
But I didn't have preeclampsia. So everything with him was not quite there. So I didn't have preeclampsia. He was born with a few different issues, but never to the extent that you read about or that the doctors were looking for. So he was definitely meant to be a part of our lives.
And it was a normal birth, wasn't it?
Oh, it was an amazing birth. I'm a little bit sick. I actually like childbirth.
Oh dear.
I know.
Can you just say that again?
But his birth was 49 minutes.
Wow.
So I had a normal birth with him, although...
So in comparison to your daughter that you'd had previously?
She was 2.5 hours for my first. He was 49 minutes, and then my third child was half an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Let's not have a fourth one.
No.
You may not make it.
No, done. But when he was born, he actually wasn't breathing. So that was quite traumatic. All the doctors rushing into the room.
And it is pretty scary too, isn't it?
Yeah, and I couldn't move. Obviously, I had clamps and all sorts of things attached. So I couldn't go over and see what was going on. Luckily, my mum was in the room, so she went over and had a look at him to check on him. And thankfully, he pulled through on that day. Yeah.
So was anything noticeable then? Like, did they notice something or?
So I remember vividly my mum came over to me and just whispered, "He's got 2 extra fingers." I said, "What?" She goes, "He's got 2 extra fingers." And I said, "No, he doesn't." She said, "He does." But then when I saw them, they were on each of his pinkies on the outside, and they were little skin tags, but they had fingernails. So they didn't get picked up in any of the scans because they didn't have bone in them.
Oh.
So they had enough nerves and all of that and blood supply to create the fingernail, but there was no bone, so it never got picked up. So usually they would have the extra digit with a bone. He didn't.
So what was your thoughts
And
like right then and there when?
I actually didn't think much of it because my children are half African, so in the African culture, skin tags are very common. So I just thought, and our friend had had a child with a skin tag on her finger, and they just got it tied off and it was all fine, not a big deal. So I just thought, I'll do the same thing, not a big deal. Worst things happen in life. He's healthy.
So when did you actually find out that something was wrong?
So they wanted to send me home after my first night in hospital, and I said, "Look, he's still not feeding well. I'm not comfortable going home yet. So I stayed another night, and that second night he still wasn't feeding, and he was sleeping all the time. Never woke up like for feeds or changed his nappy or anything. And I thought, this is what I've prayed for, a sleeping
perfect baby.
I literally prayed for a sleeping baby because my daughter didn't sleep. And the nurse just said, oh, how much has he drunk today? Because I was expressing and just feeding him with a little cup, just through his lips and things. And I told her, and she goes, oh, I'll just do a quick blood sugar test. And it was so low, we just got rushed straight up into NICU. And he got a tube put in for feeding while they did some more testing. But then we found out at 6 days old that he had been diagnosed with trisomy 13 and that it wasn't curable. So up until then, we were speculating about a few issues and organising surgeries and different things, which were all booked in, but we never expected to be told it's not curable. So I remember I had to call my family to come up to the hospital after I'd been told. My dad walked through the door and he said, what's wrong? And I just said, he's really sick. And he said, it's all right, we'll fix it. And I said, no, we won't, we can't. I think it's every man's instinct to fix something, and this is the one thing you can,
especially being a grandfather.
So yeah, that was I don't remember much of that.
That's what Mother Nature does for all of us, I think, with trauma like that.
That day I don't remember much of that at all.
So then, like, you've got him, you've gone home.
So yeah, we got transferred from the maternity ward up to the women's ward, and we got a private room where my now ex-husband and my daughter could stay the night as well. So we stayed there for the night, and then got trained up on how to do the feeding tube, and a few other things. Got to go home, and we had an amazing, I'm going to say 3.5 weeks at home, which I'm so grateful for, because not many people in my situation would have had that experience. And we got transferred from the NICU team. A really good friend of ours who was living across the road. She's a nun, and I swear we were sent to that house.
I was just going to ask, because that was something that I wanted to ask you about, because the house that you moved into, you were surrounded by the people that were important.
So when we
to keep it all together, weren't you at the time?
When we bought this house, it wasn't actually on the market. We just, through my work, I knew that they were selling, and I asked if I could go and have a look, because we were looking at buying in the near future, and went there, fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it, and moved in a couple of months later. And next door, not that you would ever think that it would mean anything, she was a funeral director. And then across the road we had Annie the nun, who was just...
I know Annie.
Do you?
Yes, she's outrageous.
She is, but she's
she's just awesome.
Beautiful soul. And I think we were sent there, directed there for sure, but she came up as, she was actually the person I rang when I got the news and said, you need to come up to the hospital. So she organised for us to get transferred from the NICU team to the paediatric palliative care team. Dr. Sharon Ryan and her team were also a godsend. Would have been a completely different experience if it wasn't for them, for sure. We couldn't have been at home, I think.
And it's hard too, like, you know, you're accepting the news that that little bubba's not going to be with you forever. And you've still got to be learning about what you've got to do to keep him alive too. So the pressure's on in so many different areas, isn't it, for you? That.
And it's all new territory, and territory...
And you're a new mum, you've just had a bubba. So your body's still, you know, getting over it all as well.
But we were blessed. So Sharon and her team came around nearly every day and
Wow, that's
checked on him
wonderful, isn't it?
and kind of prepared us for each day, what we should expect from what they knew about it.
And was there a noticeable difference for you, like each day? Was it a noticeable difference or was it a slow progression?
It was always a slow progression, but I think because they'd planted the seed,
You prepared
always
yourself.
the day before or a couple of days before, it wasn't a huge shock if things would happen. But we were told he would never gain weight, and he got so fat. In the 3 weeks, he just put on so much weight, we couldn't believe it. And I remember the week before he actually passed away, Sharon actually said to us, we don't actually know what to expect. No, we don't know what to expect from here. We're in the dark too now. We've not seen this. So
The fact that he put on the weight.
put on the weight, was still living, was still thriving, was interacting, not necessarily, we believe he was blind in one eye, but he had different things that he would do with each of us and wouldn't do those specific things with other people. So yeah, it was just...
Do you think he was an old soul, perhaps?
Extremely old soul, and I think he came here, for me, I think I've learnt the biggest life lessons anyone can possibly learn, and it sounds silly, but for
Doesn't
him,
sound
who
silly.
is this tiny newborn that cannot speak, cannot move, cannot do anything, but yeah, I'm always very grateful for the experience. It's not something you would wish upon anybody, don't get me wrong, and I would never want to go through it again, but it's been the best experience of my life, other than obviously my other 2 children.
So in what way has it left you that experience, like you say, that, you know, has given you, and in what way?
I think it makes you realise how short life is, and I know that sounds really cliche, and it makes you realise how important health is, how important relationships are. It makes you realise that you need to say whatever it is that you want to say right then and there. Don't think I'll say it tomorrow, or because often, you know, that might not be possible.
You might not get the opportunity to say it,
It's taught me a lot about myself and how strong I am. It's taught me a lot about other people. I think death, especially child death, brings out the best and the worst in people, but it also, some people cannot deal with it. I know a lot of my friends, it wasn't that they were awful people. We drifted apart because they literally didn't know what to say.
And that does happen.
It does happen, and I mean, it is what it is.
They're frightened to upset you, so they're frightened if they think if they stay away, they're not going to say something by mistake that will upset you. And like we were talking earlier about things that have happened when you were out, what people said to you, that you know that people say things in kindness, but they don't know your situation.
No.
So what were a couple of those little things? Like when you...
Okay, well, the first one was actually when I was leaving the hospital with JJ, and I was carrying him in my arms, and a lady was walking alongside me past the old cafe area, past there, and she had her 2 teenage children with her, and she just said to me, I'll swap you, you can have mine. And I just thought to myself, if you knew,
You wouldn't say that.
you would never wish that upon yourself. But it was coming from a place of, oh look, you've got a new baby, isn't that beautiful? But that was in my face because I tried to avoid people that day. And then...
Did you react to that?
No, I didn't. I just kind of smiled and kept walking. What do you say in that situation? She doesn't
I don't even know. I'm a talker.
She doesn't know any better. Like, she doesn't know my situation. She wasn't coming from a place of ill intent, you know.
And I mean, how many times do you self, like, I know like teenagers are hard, and I mean, I've been a youth worker, So
Well, I've now got a teenager and I understand what she's going on about.
totally. And you even say, you would say that.
Yes,
Like it's something that you would say out of, from your heart.
Definitely.
Like, oh, geez, I love a little brother.
Yeah.
You know, like at least I know where they are.
Yeah, and they give you lots of cuddles.
Yeah.
But then all of the nurses and doctors and my mum and my ex-husband all forced me out of the house one day because I just...
Cocooned yourself.
Yeah, I didn't leave the house. I only allowed a very, very small group of people to be a part of our world at that time. Annie was a huge part of that, but obviously my family. They forced me out of the house one day, so Mum took me out. We were just going to go out for half an hour and have a coffee and grab a couple of things. So we went to Waratah Kmart and we were going to get a coffee there. And as we were going through the checkout, the lady said to me, and at the time JJ had a tube attached to through his nose, and she just said, "Oh, it's such a shame they have to grow up." And I looked at Mum and I said, "This is why I didn't want to come out. I don't want to deal with this." And
do you think that was part of your healing though? Like to be in that situation? Do you think that?
Possibly. Again, she wasn't coming from a place
not at all.
of ill intent. And it is a shame sometimes, you know, that children have to grow up, but it's also a blessing. And it's actually taught me, yes, it's a shame they grow up, but what a blessing that our children do get to grow up, you know.
For all those children that are alive today and that are growing into adulthood.
You know, and JJ didn't have that opportunity. And then the third one that I remember, and this one it just smacked me in my face, but we had to go shopping for so after he had died, we had to go shopping for an outfit for him to be buried in. And when we got there, the smallest size they had in the outfit we wanted, which was small, would have been a little bit too big. And the lady just said to us, "Oh, it's okay, he'll grow into it."
Oh. And that's a normal thing to say.
I know, but yeah, it was heartbreaking.
And not
I had to
knowing
walk
the
out of the shop.
sensitivity of it all, you know.
And then I also had to, I wanted to go and get a nice dress to wear to the funeral. We told everyone to come in bright colours, so I wanted something bright and happy. And me and my mum spent a day shopping. Did not find a thing, and in every shop we went into, they said, "Oh, have you got a special occasion?" Yeah. And I think in the last shop, I went, "Yeah, it's my son's funeral," because I was over the day by then. I ended up wearing something in my cupboard, but yeah, I mean, people.
How did you feel just saying that?
At that point, I couldn't say it without bursting into tears because it's not a natural thing to say.
No,
I'm going
no
to my
one wants
son's
that
funeral. Yeah, it's not natural by any means. But as you know, I now talk about JJ all the time. Like even my son, who was born after JJ's death, knows his brother JJ and talks about him all the time. And if someone's grandparent dies or something, he tells them, "Oh, they've gone to heaven with my brother JJ," and goes to school and says, "It's my brother JJ's birthday today."
That's what I love, the fact that you've kept his memory alive.
We celebrate his birthdays. We don't celebrate his anniversary. We go out for dinner or do something. Often we would let balloons go as well for that type of thing.
And you have your Christmas,
We
Santa
do,
Claus photos
yeah,
with his
so-
photo in it, don't you, with the children?
So this year just passed, we had a photo in front of the Christmas tree, Christmas Eve. The kids had the plate of cookies with the milk for Santa, JJ's photo next to it, and then them crouching down in the photo as well. So I try to always get his photo in there, and even the first year that Amani was alive, my son was alive, they had a Christmas photo, and then I put JJ's photo up on the fireplace. So he was in the photo with Santa as well, which was really lovely.
And that's beautiful. I mean, do you think that that's helped you a lot is to actually keep his memory alive.
Definitely, and I think that's also my biggest fear, that people will forget. So, getting text messages from friends on his birthday or anniversary of death. One friend that I met through an online pregnancy group, her son was actually born on the same day. We've remained really quite close, I guess, and every year without fail we get a birthday card in the mail from her and JJ's twinny, Maddie, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I get to watch him grow.
I was just going to say, how do you cope with that?
I think because me and this lady are close, and she helped me through a lot of dark times. I find it quite easy. She actually came to the funeral with Maddie, which was amazing. I don't know, it's never been a problem, but in other cases it has been a problem. I think because of our relationship it wasn't. It's...
And I mean, just us sitting here talking about it, you seem so together to me. You're just so incredibly together. And how you talk about him, your face lights up, you've got that beautiful smile, because it's hard, isn't it?
It is, it's really difficult, and I haven't always felt this together. I've had a really amazing support network. I have a really small group of friends, but my family is amazing. My mum, she's fantastic, and she's helped me in some really, really dark moments. Without her, I don't think I would be the person I am now. But I think talking about him and like you say, keeping his memory alive is what helps me get through.
And for your children too, to keep him alive in their own thoughts and memories as well.
And
that's important.
Being able to talk about him freely, because my daughter was 6. So she wasn't just a baby who didn't know what was going on. She knew what was going on. She, had cuddles with her brother and had all the little jokes and bits and pieces. And how does a 6-year-old process that? So I wanted to make it as easy as possible for her to speak about it, if she wanted to, so that she didn't feel alone.
Does she talk to you about it now?
Oh, it's so... I don't know what the word is. She just thinks it's so lonely, I guess, because it so much.
Are we saying how quiet it is here?
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about it so much that I don't think she sees the taboo in it that adults see. And that is something that I have found through my journey, is when I speak about it, I often then end up consoling the other person because they're devastated that they've asked me how many children I have, or different things. When I do speak about it, they just have this look of horror because it's not spoken about. But I try to tell people when I first meet them that I've had 3 children.
I was just going to say that. How do you answer that when someone says to
How
me,
many children do you have?
Yeah, because it's just a normal thing. Oh, yeah, you're married and blah.
Yeah.
Where do you live and how many children do you have? And what's your answer?
I say, well, it depends on the situation, but my general response is I have 3 children, 2 with me and 1 in spirit. And then they get from that, oh, okay.
That's a beautiful way of putting it too.
Yeah, I have had only 1 or 2 people go, oh, what do you mean? And then I've explained it a little bit further, and then they feel mortified. But I try to be as open as possible. And I have found actually by talking about it to people, they then go, oh my goodness, my best friend just lost a child, and I don't know how to, how to be there for her, or I don't know if I'm saying the right thing or if I'm not saying the right thing. And my advice to those people that then talk about their experiences, you can't say the wrong thing if it's coming from a place of love. If you're coming from a place where you just want to make sure that they're okay, then it's right,
So do you think, would you If someone sat down and they said that it's happened to them or their sister, or you'd promote the fact of talking about
Oh, most definitely. The only way we're going to get rid of that taboo is by speaking about it and bringing it out in the open, because it's much more common than people think. Not just children that pass away at 6 weeks old, but stillbirth, premature birth, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever it is. Burying a child, no matter what age, is hard. I think in my instance, I at least got a really positive experience and time with him to make those memories, take photos. I don't know how people deal with it when they've not had that time, where it's a premature birth or something like that. But I do know people in that situation.
And what was the one thing that really helped you get through it?
Talking about it, definitely, and the support network I had around me. I think if I didn't have my mum, Annie, my dad, my brothers, some of my friends to speak to, I probably, and I must admit actually, now just thinking about it, I always say if I didn't have my daughter, who I have to get up for every day, I may have taken a very different path, but I didn't have a choice other than to get up and focus on making sure she was okay. But I think having a network around you where if you're not coping, they can either see that for you, or you can go to them and say, I'm not coping, I need to talk, or I need to see a doctor, or I need to see a counsellor, I need a holiday, whatever it is. I think that's where the speaking about it is really important, because people can gauge if you need help, or you can gauge for yourself if you need help.
Or, I think the fact of the matter is too that you've got to be in that position to ask for help. You've got to allow yourself to ask for help.
Definitely.
So if some situation's going on for you and you need to get it out there, and maybe there's not that something or that person around you at that time, is to go and seek that person and tell them how you're feeling, because that's the important thing, isn't it? Getting it out.
Definitely.
Because you can't keep it all in. It just acts like a cancer in the end. It just eats you away. So you've got to voice what's happening in your world, and talk to your friends. Like I say this every single week. Find someone to share your news with or your heartache with, because it's so important to just get that all out there, because you don't want to keep it within. It just gets harder and harder and harder to get it out in time. So find a network, find your beautiful family or your wonderful girlfriend or your next door neighbour or your Annie in your life. Find that person, or ring Lifeline.
Yeah, I was going to say, even someone completely
There's so many organisations out there. Just Google what your problem is and try and find a network that's close to you that you can make that call to. Excuse me. So each and every week when I have a guest on, and here we go, are you ready for it? I ask each of my guests to, find it in their heart to give that person. Now, there's someone out there that's, watching tonight, or they're sharing it with someone, or maybe it's a sister, maybe it's, your best friend or a neighbour or someone that's been through a similar situation as you. What would be your message of hope to that person watching tonight?
Such a big question. I think just to speak your truth, speak as much as you can about it, or journal about it, but just know that if I can get through it, anyone can get through it. Grieve, no matter what that looks like. If you need to lay in bed for a week, lay in bed for a week. If you need to be around people, be around people. Just do whatever feels right for you, but definitely reach out for help if you find yourself going down a darker path than you used to, because is another choice, and I've taken the other path, and I'm so glad that I did, because I love life, you know, and I love everything that I've experienced in it, including JJ. So yeah, definitely just talk about it and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even if it doesn't feel that way right now.
Share the pain.
Yeah.
You know, really share it. So, look, I have amazing people that tune in every week, and here's a couple of names I'll just read out tonight and thank them for taking the time, and I'll read them out when they're in full view. So we have Margaret Moffat. Thank you so much, Margaret, for tuning in tonight. It's really lovely of you to do that. We've got Claire Reid, Richard Evans. Thank you, Richard. Sharon Sharp, Lisa Allen, Chris Rourke. Thank you, Chris. And I know I say this every week to you, Chris, but she'll be on the show very soon to tell her story. Quite an amazing woman. Peter Egan Lee, Philip Stair. Thank you, Philip, for watching. Georgina Harry. And thank you to all my viewers out there that each and every week you just tune in and, you know, you give me the opportunity to be living my dream and bringing you this show. So whatever it is in life, you know, speak your truth, feel great about what you're doing, and if anything's really bugging you, share it. Like, just share it. And if you need help, ask for help. So know that in life, you know, out there, no matter what in life, you're going to be okay. So we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.